Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining me today. I'm excited to introduce our first chapter, Relationship Selling in the Information Economy. On this first slide, we'll start with a quick overview. Selling today is much more than just transactions. It's now about building relationships, earning trust, and adding value in an increasingly information-driven marketplace. We'll explore core concepts like personal selling, which involves direct interaction with customers, and 3 key prescriptions: adopting the marketing concept, valuing personal selling, and becoming long-term partners or problem solvers. We'll also look at how CRM tools help manage customer data and foster loyalty. Careers in sales offer flexibility, high earning potential, and room for advancement. It's important to understand what relationship selling isn't. It's not just advertising, manipulative hard selling, or simply delivering a product without follow-up. To put it simply, explaining this to a friend, I'd say selling is like being a guide, helping someone find the right path to what they truly need, rather than just pushing a product. And since this is our first slide, I want to warmly welcome you all and give a quick preview. We'll cover how relationship selling has evolved, the essential skills involved, and how you can apply these ideas in real-world scenarios. We're about to dive into a fascinating journey into modern selling. Let's consider what happens to a company that focuses solely on price, neglecting relationships. When price becomes the only game in town, it often leads to a race to the bottom, eroding profit margins and undermining customer loyalty. Without strong relationships, customers may switch easily, leaving the company vulnerable in the long run. Now, let's move into some practice drills, like survivor and missing checks, to reinforce these ideas. Next, I want to define personal selling. Personal selling is a direct, face-to-face communication process where a salesperson interacts with a potential customer to understand their needs and recommend solutions tailored to them. It's about building trust and providing value, not just pushing products. There are 3 key prescriptions of a selling philosophy. The first is focusing on customer needs, putting the customer's interests first. The second is establishing long-term relationships, rather than just making a quick sale. And third is adding value, helping customers solve problems rather than just selling a product. Why is customer relationship management, or CRM, so important today? Because it allows us to understand our customers better, personalize interactions, and build loyalty. In a world where products are often similar, relationships are what differentiate us and keep customers coming back. Finally, let's do a flip the classroom drill, imagining I'm the professor. I'd say, selling today isn't about convincing people to buy something they're already convinced or not. It's about connecting. Think of salespeople like doctors. They listen carefully, diagnose needs, and recommend solutions. My question to you: can a company survive in this information age without salespeople who add real value? The answer is no. Because in this digital era, relationships and trust matter more than ever, and salespeople who genuinely add value are the key to thriving. In this chapter, we're exploring how selling has evolved over time, moving from simply pushing products to building customer-focused, consultative partnerships. The core idea is that successful selling now centers on understanding and satisfying customer needs, rather than just pushing a product. Let's talk about the key concepts. First, the marketing idea that profits come from customer satisfaction is fundamental. Happy customers lead to repeat business and long-term success. Consultative selling emphasizes a two-way dialogue, where the salesperson acts more like an advisor, helping the customer find the best solution for their unique situation. Then, we have the strategic or consultative model, which involves 4 main strategies: building relationships, understanding the product, knowing the customer, and delivering effective presentations. Value-added selling goes beyond just the product itself. It involves providing additional support or services that enhance the overall value to the customer. And partnerships emphasize creating long-term alliances rather than focusing on one-off sales, fostering trust and ongoing collaboration. Now, it's important to clarify what these models are not. They are not just transactional selling, where the sale is a one-time event. They are not about short-term gains or quick wins, and they definitely do not ignore the customer's long-term goals. To put it simply, selling today is like being a fitness coach. You're not just selling a single workout, you're guiding someone through a lifestyle change. It's about supporting the customer's overall journey, not just closing a single deal. Finally, think about this. What happens if a company only focuses on immediate transactions? Well, it risks losing customer loyalty, missing out on repeat business, and ultimately damaging its reputation. Long-term thinking and relationship building are what truly sustain success in this evolving sales landscape. All right, let's dive into this slide. First, we're looking at the Test It section, which includes practice drills like survivor and missing checks, great ways to reinforce our understanding. Now, what is the marketing concept here? Well, it's about understanding how we create value and connect with customers. Next, let's recall the 4 parts of the strategic or consultative model. These typically include identifying needs, offering tailored solutions, building relationships, and delivering value, important steps that transform a simple sale into a strategic partnership. Moving on, what does value-added selling really mean? Essentially, it's about going beyond just the product or service, adding extra benefits or insights that solve problems or improve the customer's experience. It's about positioning yourself as a trusted advisor rather than just a vendor. Finally, let's look at the flip the classroom drill, or what I like to call the capstone stone. The professor version emphasizes how modern selling has evolved. We've shifted from the old pushy sales tactics to becoming true consultants and allies. For example, IT firms now act as partners, not just vendors. Here's a question to ponder. Can companies still compete today with purely transactional sales? The answer is probably no. In today's market, building relationships and providing value are essential for long-term success. So, connecting all these points back to our overall theme, effective selling is about understanding your customer deeply, offering meaningful solutions, and building lasting partnerships. Let's talk about ethics in selling, which really forms the foundation for building long-term customer partnerships. Think of ethics and trust as the base that supports every successful sale and lasting relationship. When we talk about ethical selling, we're referring to honesty, fairness, and responsibility, core values that guide our actions. Of course, there are challenges, like dealing with bribes, making false promises, or misusing information. These are pitfalls we need to be aware of. Our influences, such as our culture, leadership, and personal values, also shape how ethical we are in our sales practices. Emotional intelligence plays a big role here, helping us make the right ethical decisions even in tricky situations. A win-win approach, where both parties benefit, builds our credibility and trust over time. Now, it's important to understand what ethics in sales is not. It's not about lying, exaggerating, or manipulating customers. It's also not ignoring laws or regulations, and it definitely isn't sacrificing long-term trust for short-term gains. To put it simply, ethics in sales is like being a referee. It's about enforcing fairness and integrity, even when no one is watching. It's about doing what's right, not just what's easy or profitable in the moment. Let's talk about 3 common ethical challenges in sales. First, there's honesty, always being truthful with your customers. Second, avoiding manipulation, making sure you're not pushing someone to buy something they don't need or want. And third, respecting confidentiality, keeping client information private and secure. These challenges are central because they directly impact trust. Now, why is emotional intelligence so important for ethics? Well, emotional intelligence helps us understand and manage our own emotions while empathizing with others. This awareness fosters honesty and respect, making it easier to navigate tricky ethical situations. When you're emotionally intelligent, you're more likely to act with integrity because you genuinely understand the impact of your actions. Next, let's consider the role of leadership. Leaders set the tone for the entire organization's ethical culture. When leaders demonstrate ethical behavior consistently, it encourages everyone else to follow suit. A strong ethical culture isn't just about rules. It's about modeling the right values and creating an environment where honesty and integrity are the norms. Finally, as a quick recap from the professor, without ethics, trust collapses. Even if you have the lowest prices, dishonesty will eventually undermine your reputation. So I ask you, would you buy from someone you don't trust? It's a simple question, but it highlights the foundation of all sales, trust. Let's dive into Chapter 4, which focuses on relationship strategy. Here, the foundation is simple. Relationships are the key to sales success. Building long-term trust should always be our ultimate goal. Now, the core concepts to remember are the win-win philosophy, which is all about mutual benefit. When both parties gain, that's how sustainable relationships are built. It's also important to understand that empathy combined with a healthy ego creates a good balance between caring and motivating. Nonverbal communication plays a big role. Things like dress, handshake, and tone of voice can speak volumes beyond words. That's why the care model is so useful. Customize your approach, appreciate your client, respond thoughtfully, and execute effectively. When defining what relationship building isn't, remember it's not a win-lose approach. It's not about ignoring emotional connections either. Instead, it's about fostering genuine, mutually beneficial relationships within clear boundaries, like a pyramid that's built on trust and respect. Think of building relationships like gardening. You need consistent care, patience, and attention for growth. It's not a one-time effort, but an ongoing process. Now ask yourself, what happens if a salesperson always tries to win at the customer's expense? It's likely to backfire, damaging trust and long-term success. So what is the core of the win-win philosophy? It's about creating outcomes where both sides feel satisfied. And the care model? It's a simple framework to guide genuine relationship building. Customize your approach, appreciate the client, respond thoughtfully, and follow through with action. So why are nonverbal cues so important in our interactions? Well, they actually carry a lot of weight in communication, often more than words alone. Things like facial expressions, gestures, posture, and eye contact help us understand the true feelings and intentions behind what someone is saying. These cues can build trust, demonstrate empathy, and create a more genuine connection. Now let's talk about the flip the classroom drill, which I like to call the capstone stone. This activity really emphasizes the importance of applying what we've learned. And as I often remind you, relationships are like the soil where sales grow. When we show care, that is, genuine concern and empathy, we make our customers feel valued. And here's a key question to ponder. Can a salesperson succeed long-term without empathy? The answer is, quite simply, no. Empathy isn't just a nice-to-have, it's essential for lasting success in sales. When you truly understand and care about your customers, you build trust, foster loyalty, and ultimately create stronger, more meaningful relationships. That's the core of our overall theme, connecting authentically to achieve sustainable success. Welcome to Chapter 5, Communication Styles. Let's start with the intro summary, which lays the foundation. Adapting your communication style is crucial for building trust and rapport with your customers. When you tailor how you communicate, you show that you understand and respect their unique preferences. Now, moving to the core content, these are the exam-ready bricks. Adaptive selling is about having a flexible approach that fits each customer's style. Think of it as adjusting your language and tone based on who you're talking to. There are two key dimensions to consider. Dominance, which relates to assertiveness, and sociability, which is about expressiveness. These dimensions help us identify four main styles. First, we have the emotive style, outgoing and energetic. Then, the directive style, results-driven and firm. Next, the reflective style, analytical and reserved. And finally, the supportive style, patient and cooperative. An important concept here is the platinum rule. Treat people the way they want to be treated. That means understanding their style and adjusting accordingly. Now, let's clarify what communication is. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach, nor is it ignoring cues from the buyer. If you do either, you risk miscommunication and missing opportunities to connect. To put it simply, it's like speaking different languages. Adapting your tone ensures you're understood and that the message resonates. Now, for a critical thinking moment, what do you think happens if a salesperson always uses the same style regardless of who they're talking to? If they don't adapt, they might come across as insensitive or unhelpful, which can hinder trust and rapport. Remember, flexible communication is key to successful selling. Thanks for your attention. All right, let's dive into slide 10. When we talk about communication, what are the two key dimensions we need to keep in mind? Think about how we share information. There's the content itself, but also how we deliver it. These two dimensions shape every interaction. Next, I want to remind you of the 4 styles we've discussed. They're the different ways people prefer to communicate and process information. Understanding these styles helps us tailor our approach and connect more effectively. Now, a quick refresher on the platinum rule. Instead of just treating others the way we want to be treated, we aim to treat them the way they want to be treated. It's about customizing our approach based on their style, which fosters trust and cooperation. Moving on, we have the flip the classroom drill, also called the capstone stone. This is where you practice switching styles to match your client's needs, really a practical way to master style flexing. And as I always say, style flexing is all about building trust. For example, supportive buyers don't respond well to pushy sales tactics. Instead, they want us to be supportive and understanding. So here's a question for you. How do mismatched styles kill deals? Well, when our style doesn't align with theirs, communication breaks down, trust erodes, and the deal can fall apart before it even begins. It's a reminder that adapting our style isn't just polite, it's essential for success. In this chapter, we're focusing on creating effective product solutions. Remember, customers don't just buy products, they're looking for solutions to their problems. So, when we develop our product strategy, it's about combining our product expertise with the ability to configure solutions that meet specific needs. Solution selling isn't just about pushing a product. It's about delivering measurable results, like increasing productivity or reducing costs. That's how we demonstrate real value. We also tailor our strategies. Sometimes it's transactional, sometimes consultative, or even alliance-based, depending on what the customer needs. A key concept here is the feature-benefit bridge. Features are what the product is, but benefits explain why that feature matters to the customer. It's essential to connect those dots clearly. When defining what our solution is, it's important to do so by exclusion, understanding what it isn't, and setting clear boundaries. This helps avoid the trap of just memorizing features or offering a one-size-fits-all package, which rarely works in solution selling. To put it simply, selling solutions is like being a mechanic. You don't just sell the wrench, you fix the car. Your goal is to solve the customer's problem, not just sell tools. Now, think about why features alone often don't persuade customers. It's because they don't show the true value or address their specific needs. Features need to be linked to benefits that matter to them. Finally, to cement this understanding, I want you to define solution selling and explain the feature-benefit bridge in your own words. This will help you see how all these pieces fit together in creating compelling solutions. Let's explore 2 types of tailored strategies that can really make a difference. First, there's the flip the classroom drill, which we can think of as a capstone stone in our approach. This strategy encourages us to reverse the traditional teaching or pitching method. Instead of starting with features or specs, we focus on the outcomes our customers truly want. Now, to recap what I mentioned earlier, customers aren't just interested in the technical details, they care about results. For example, they don't just want faster software, they want faster business growth. The key takeaway here is that a feature-only pitch, no matter how impressive, may never truly compete with a solution that addresses their core needs and desired outcomes. So the big question to consider is, can a feature-only pitch ever really compete with a solution-focused approach? The answer is usually no. Customers are looking for value and results, and our goal is to align our strategies accordingly. This mindset ties directly into the overall theme of understanding and delivering what the customer truly values. Chapter 7 focuses on product selling strategies, starting with the foundation layer. Remember, positioning plus differentiation equals a long-term competitive advantage. When we talk about positioning, we're referring to how customers perceive us compared to our competitors. Differentiation sources include quality, price, service, innovation, and convenience. These are the key ways we stand out. Our value proposition is essentially the bundle of benefits we promise to deliver to our customers. Now, the 3D product model reminds us that a product isn't just the physical item. It also includes the company and the salesperson. Service quality plays a vital role here, covering tangible aspects, reliability, responsiveness, assurance, and empathy. It's important to define what positioning isn't, so, by exclusion, we shouldn't rely solely on discounts. And we can't ignore the roles of the company and salesperson in shaping our positioning. To put it simply, I like to think of positioning as your reputation, what people say about you when you're not in the room. Now, a critical question to consider. What are the risks if we compete only on price? That approach can lead to a race to the bottom, eroding margins and potentially devaluing your brand. Finally, in practice, we need to test these ideas. Think about real-world scenarios and check whether your strategy holds up, making sure you're not missing any key elements. Let's start by defining differentiation. Essentially, it's what makes your product stand out from the competition, what gives it a unique edge in the marketplace. Next, the 3D product model includes 3 key parts: the core product, the actual product, and the augmented product. Each of these layers adds value and helps shape how consumers perceive your offering. Now, when it comes to positioning a product, there are 3 main ways to do it. You can position based on the product's features and benefits, the price point, or the target customer segment you're aiming to attract. Moving on to our flip the classroom drill, or the capstone stone, this is where we tie everything together. A crucial point to remember is that differentiation builds customer loyalty, while simply cutting prices might boost short-term sales but doesn't foster loyalty. Take Apple, for example. They sell more than just technology. They sell design, identity, and a sense of innovation. So my question to you is, what do you think happens if all differentiation disappears in a crowded market? Well, it becomes a race to the bottom, where products are indistinguishable and brands struggle to maintain customer loyalty. Remember, staying differentiated is key to long-term success. Let's break down Chapter 8, Buying Process and Behavior. First, the intro summary, which we can think of as the foundation layer. Understanding how buyers think and decide is crucial, because it helps us tailor our approach for better results. The core idea here is that learning about consumer motives, those emotional and personal drivers, as well as business buyers' rational, group decision-making, and long-term considerations, is key. We look at the buying stages: awareness, evaluation, resolution, purchase, and implementation. And there's a helpful concept called buyer resolution theory, where customers answer 5 key questions. Why are they buying? What do they need? Where will they buy? What's the price? When do they plan to buy? Motives behind these decisions can be emotional, like fear or status, rational, such as ROI, or related to loyalty and trust in a brand. It's important to define motives by exclusion, what buying isn't, by understanding what it isn't within those pyramid boundaries. This means not assuming all buyers act the same, and not skipping the evaluation of motives altogether. Now, to put it in plain words, buying is a lot like dating. You meet someone, test compatibility, weigh your options, and only then make a commitment. So, why do emotional motives matter even in business decisions that seem purely logical? Well, because emotions often influence rational choices more than we might think. And finally, a quick practice. Think about how understanding motives can help you spot blind spots in your sales approach. That's the core of what we need to grasp from this chapter. Let's walk through the 5 stages of the buying process. First, there's need recognition, where the buyer realizes they have a problem or need. Next is information search, where they gather details about possible solutions. Then comes evaluation of alternatives, where they compare options to find the best fit. After that, the purchase decision itself, when they select the product or service. Finally, post-purchase behavior, which involves the buyer's satisfaction and potential future loyalty. Now, what's the difference between consumer and business buyers? Consumer buyers typically purchase for personal use, driven largely by emotions and personal preferences. Business buyers, on the other hand, buy for organizational needs, often focusing more on rational decisions, ROI, and long-term value. Moving on, I want to highlight 3 common types of buying motives. First, functional motives. These are practical reasons like reliability or efficiency. Second, emotional motives. These involve feelings such as status or security. And third, rational motives. These are logical reasons like cost savings or performance benefits. Finally, regarding the flip the classroom drill or the capstone stone, remember, as I mentioned earlier, both the head and heart drive buying decisions. A CFO might ask for ROI, which is logical, but trust and relationships often seal the deal. So my question to you is, can logic-only arguments truly win a sale? Think about that as we wrap up this section. Prospecting is truly the lifeblood of selling. Without a healthy pipeline, there's no way to generate sales. Think of prospecting as the foundation layer. It's what keeps everything else standing strong. Now, when we talk about learning the core content, it's essential to understand the main sources of prospecting. These include referrals, networking, social media, cold calls, and inbound leads. Each of these channels helps us find potential clients in different ways. Once we've identified prospects, qualifying them is crucial. We do this with 4 key questions. Do they need our product or service? Do they have the authority to make a decision? Do they have the budget or money to buy? And are they willing to move forward? These questions help us focus our efforts on the most promising leads. A helpful visual here is the Ferris wheel concept. Think of it as continuously adding new leads while others drop out. It's a constant cycle of prospecting that keeps your pipeline full and healthy. Sales intelligence also plays a big role. It's about doing research on your prospects and competitors to better understand the landscape and tailor your approach. And don't forget your CRM, which is the tool that helps you organize and track your pipeline's health over time. Now, it's important to define what prospecting is. It's not waiting around for leads to come to you, and it's not chasing after unqualified prospects that won't turn into sales. That's a waste of time and resources. Think of prospecting as fishing. You cast your line wide, but you only keep the ones worth catching. It's about being strategic and selective. A common blind spot is relying only on existing customers. While they're valuable, you can't depend solely on them. You need to keep adding new prospects to grow your business. And finally, let's remember the 4 qualifying tests: needing, authority, money, and willingness. Mastering these questions ensures you're focusing on the right prospects and making the best use of your time. Let's take a closer look at the Ferris wheel model. This model illustrates how prospects move through different stages in our sales funnel. Imagine it as a continuous loop where potential customers are constantly cycling through awareness, interest, decision, and action. The key idea here is that we need to actively engage prospects at each stage to keep them moving forward and prevent them from dropping out. Think of it as spinning a wheel that keeps generating new opportunities while nurturing existing ones. Now, when it comes to prospecting sources, there are many options, but 2 particularly effective ones are networking and inbound marketing. Networking allows us to connect with potential clients through relationships and referrals. Inbound marketing, on the other hand, attracts prospects to us through valuable content and online presence, making them come to us rather than us chasing them down. Switching gears to our flip the classroom drill, this is our capstone exercise. Remember, a drying pipeline can lead to career collapse. For example, startups survive by constantly generating leads. If they stop, they risk failure. So my question to you is, can a sales team rely only on referrals long-term? The answer is probably not. While referrals are powerful, relying solely on them can be risky because it limits your reach and growth potential. That's why diversifying your prospecting sources is crucial to maintaining a healthy, sustainable pipeline. Let's start with the first part, the intro summary. The first impression we make really sets the tone for the entire relationship. It's our foundation, the starting point that influences everything that follows. Moving on to what we need to learn, these are the core content or exam-ready bricks. The pre-approach stage is all about research, understanding our prospect and setting clear objectives before we even make contact. When we have that first meeting, our goals are simple but important. Build rapport, gain permission to proceed, and gather as much information as possible. This helps us tailor our approach and shows respect for the prospect's time and needs. Now let's talk about approach techniques. There are several tools at our disposal: using an agenda, giving a demo, getting a referral, making a benefit statement, asking questions, conducting a survey, or offering a premium gift. These methods help us establish a connection and create engagement. Social contact also plays a key role. Compliments, showing genuine interest, and listening carefully all help to build trust quickly. But we all face call reluctance at times. The way to overcome it is through thorough preparation and maintaining a positive, optimistic mindset. That confidence can make all the difference in making a successful approach. It's important to define what approach is not. For example, it's not winging it without doing any research beforehand. It's also not jumping straight into product talk. That's rushing and can turn prospects off. To put it simply, approach is like a handshake. It instantly communicates confidence, respect, and trust. When we approach this way, we set a solid foundation for a productive relationship. Now let's think critically. Why is pre-approach research so vital before we make that first contact? The answer is simple. It helps us understand the prospect better, tailor our message, and approach with confidence. Without it, we risk wasting time or coming across as unprepared. Finally, in practice, always test your approach. Practice drills, like survivor exercises or missing checks, help you identify areas for improvement and build your confidence for real interactions. So remember, a well-prepared, respectful, and confident approach is key to building trust and setting the stage for a successful relationship. Now, let's talk about the goals of that very first meeting. The main idea here is to set a strong foundation. You want to build trust, understand each other's needs, and start guiding the conversation toward a mutually beneficial outcome. Next, I want to highlight 3 approach techniques. First, active listening, really tuning in to what the other person is saying. Second, asking open-ended questions that invite dialogue rather than yes or no answers. And third, demonstrating value early, showing that you've thought about their needs and have solutions in mind. Now, defining call reluctance. This is that hesitation or fear some people feel about making sales calls or reaching out to prospects. It's quite common, and it often stems from fear of rejection or discomfort with rejection. Recognizing this is the first step to overcoming it. Finally, I want to mention the flip the classroom drill, also known as the capstone stone. This is a powerful exercise where you practice turning the traditional sales conversation into an interactive learning experience. And as our professor reminds us, remember, the first conversation sets the frame for the deal. Preparation equals professionalism. The big question here is, can you recover from a weak or careless first impression? The answer is yes, but it takes awareness, skill, and confidence to do so. So keep in mind that the initial contact isn't just about making a sale. It's about establishing credibility and trust that will carry you forward. Let's dive into Chapter 11, Customer Needs Discovery. The foundation layer here is crucial. The key to selling is discovering what the customer really needs, not just what they say they want. It's about looking beyond their words to understand their true underlying needs. Now, the core content, what I like to call the exam-ready bricks, is the 4-step consultative model: discovery, solution, satisfaction, and service. Think of it as a flow that guides us through truly understanding and meeting customer needs. And we also have the SPIN technique: situation, problem, implication, and need payoff. These are the question types we use to dig deeper. They include survey questions, probing questions, confirmation questions, and need satisfaction questions. Each of these helps us gather more precise information. Active listening plays a vital role here, paraphrasing what the customer says, clarifying their points, and taking notes. This not only shows engagement, but helps surface the true buying motives, which often come out through good questioning. It's also important to define needs by exclusion, by understanding what a need isn't, rather than just what it is. This is like drawing pyramid boundaries, helping us focus on the real priorities. Remember, we should never dominate the conversation. The discovery stage isn't about talking, it's about listening. Also, we shouldn't skip this stage, and we must avoid assuming we already know the answers. Each step builds trust and uncovers genuine needs. To put it simply, needs discovery is like being a detective. You don't guess, you uncover clues by asking the right questions. This approach ensures you truly understand your customer rather than making assumptions. Now, a critical point to consider. What happens if a salesperson talks more than the buyer during discovery? Well, if that happens, we risk missing out on vital information. The customer's insights and needs stay hidden, and we lose the opportunity to tailor our solutions effectively. So, active listening and asking the right questions are essential for successful needs discovery. All right, let's walk through this slide. First, we have test it, which includes practice drills like survivor and missing checks. These are great ways to reinforce what we've learned and identify any gaps. Now, what does SPIN stand for? It's a framework for asking better questions during sales conversations. SPIN stands for situation, problem, implication, and need payoff. Remember these categories because they help us guide the conversation effectively. Next, we're asked to list the 4 types of questions. They are, as I just mentioned, situation questions, problem questions, implication questions, and need payoff questions. Each one plays a vital role in uncovering a buyer's true needs. Why is active listening critical? Well, active listening allows us to truly understand the customer's situation and motivations. It's not just about hearing words, it's about paying attention to what's unsaid, reading between the lines, and showing genuine interest. This builds trust and helps us tailor our solutions. Now, moving to the flip the classroom drill, or what we call the capstone stone. This exercise is designed to challenge us to apply these concepts in real time. It's about engaging actively and practicing what we've learned. Finally, the professor's recap emphasizes a key point. Great salespeople ask more questions than they talk. It's discovery that fuels everything else, building rapport, understanding needs, and closing deals. The big question here is, can a sale succeed if the salesperson never really uncovers the buyer's true motives? The answer is, of course, no. Knowing the real motives is essential for a successful and authentic sale. Let's start with the intro summary, which is the foundation layer of a consultative presentation. Remember, a presentation isn't just about showing slides. It's about influencing decisions and proving value. The goal is to connect with your audience and demonstrate why your message matters. Now, moving on to the core content, what I call the exam-ready bricks. There are 3 key strategies to keep in mind. First, being informative, teaching your audience something new. Second, persuasive, motivating them to take action. And third, a reminder, reassuring them and reinforcing your message. To effectively implement these strategies, use some proven tactics. Focus on one idea at a time to keep your message clear. Use proof devices like data, testimonials, or case studies to build credibility. And don't forget to appeal to multiple senses, visuals, stories, sounds, to make your message memorable. Persuasion often comes down to stories, analogies, and emotionally charged words. These elements help create a genuine connection and influence decisions. When working in group presentations, prepare for mixed roles and tough questions, ensuring everyone is aligned and ready to handle different scenarios. Let's also clarify what your presentation should not be. It's not an info dump filled with features. It's not about ignoring buyer engagement or pushing a one-size-fits-all message. Instead, focus on defining your message by what it isn't, by setting clear boundaries like a pyramid to stay focused. Moving to the teach it part, think of a presentation as telling a story. Your role is to make people feel the value, not just hear about it. When you do that, your message becomes more impactful and memorable. Now, let's apply some critical thinking. Ask yourself, why is it dangerous to rely only on facts without emotion? Well, facts alone can be dry and forgettable. Without emotion, your audience might not connect or feel compelled to act. That's why combining data with stories, analogies, and emotional words is so powerful. Finally, the test, practice drills. Challenge yourself with scenarios like survivor or missing checks to ensure your message is clear, engaging, and persuasive. Remember, a strong presentation balances facts with feeling, structure with spontaneity, and logic with emotion. All right, let's talk about the 3 main presentation strategies. First, we have storytelling, which helps make your message memorable and relatable. Second, visual aids like images and charts to clarify complex ideas. And third, repetition to reinforce key points and ensure your audience retains the message. Now, for proof devices, these are tools to support your claims. 2 effective ones are statistics, which provide solid data backing your points, and real-life examples, which make abstract ideas tangible and relatable. But why is it so important to balance logic with emotion? Well, logic helps establish credibility and clarity, but emotion connects with your audience on a deeper level. When you combine both, your message becomes not only convincing but also inspiring. This idea ties back to our overall theme. A truly impactful presentation doesn't rely solely on facts or feelings. For example, think about Tesla. They sell a vision of the future, not just technical specs. They tap into our dreams and aspirations, making their message resonate on a personal level. And here's a question to consider. Can data-only presentations ever really inspire? While facts are essential, without emotional appeal, they might fall flat. So, striking that balance is key to creating a compelling, memorable presentation. In this slide, we're diving into Chapter 13, Negotiating Concerns. First, let's look at the intro summary, which is our foundation layer. Negotiation is really about solving customer concerns while still protecting the overall value of what we offer. It's a balancing act, making sure we address their worries without giving away too much. Now, moving to the core content, these are the exam-ready bricks you need to master. The first step is planning ahead. That means setting clear goals, establishing an agenda, and knowing your BATNA, your best alternative if the deal doesn't go through, and understanding ZOPA, the zone of possible agreement. This preparation helps you steer the negotiation confidently. Next, we should recognize common concerns. These typically fall into 5 categories: need, product, source, time, and price. Being aware of these helps us anticipate objections and respond effectively. Handling these concerns involves various methods. You might use a direct or indirect denial or employ a felt, found approach, sharing empathy, relating to their feelings, and then providing evidence or examples. Sometimes, highlighting a superior benefit, offering a demo, or sharing third-party proof can also be persuasive. It's important to understand that professional buyers might pressure us using tactics like citing budget limits or saying, "take it or leave it." Our job is to stay firm without being confrontational. We can define what negotiation isn't by using exclusionary boundaries, by clarifying what it isn't about. It's not about defeating the buyer, ignoring objections, or discounting everything just to win. Instead, it's about mutual understanding and creating a solution that works for both sides. Now, I like to explain negotiation as building a bridge. Think of it like this. You're meeting in the middle, but that bridge needs to be strong enough to support both sides. It's about creating a sturdy connection that holds over time. Finally, I want to challenge you to think critically. Why do you think cutting the price is often the weakest way to handle objections? Well, because lowering the price can undermine the perceived value and set a precedent that's hard to maintain. It may solve the immediate concern, but it often damages the overall relationship and future opportunities. So, understanding these concepts helps us negotiate more effectively and preserve value. All right, let's go through some practice drills to reinforce what we've learned. First, I want you to list the 5 common buyer concerns we discussed earlier. Remember, understanding these concerns helps us address them effectively. Next, can anyone tell me what BATNA stands for? That's our best alternative to a negotiated agreement, and knowing it gives us leverage in negotiations. Now, let's talk about objection handling methods. Can anyone name 2 effective ways to handle objections? These techniques are crucial because they help turn objections into opportunities. Moving on, we'll do the flip the classroom drill, often called the capstone stone. This exercise really brings everything together by encouraging you to apply your skills in a practical setting. And to wrap up, I want to revisit the professor's recap. Good negotiation isn't about stripping value away, it's about adding value. When a salesperson always caves on price pressure, what do you think happens? Usually, it devalues the product and damages trust, making future negotiations even harder. So remember, strong negotiators aim to create win-win situations, which ultimately benefit everyone involved. All right, let's talk about Chapter 14, Closing the Sale. First, remember that closing isn't the end. It's actually the beginning of a partnership built on trust and value. When we learn it as core content, we see that closing is a natural step when the buyer's needs are met. It's important to watch for buying signals. These can be verbal, like questions or recognition, or nonverbal, such as tone and body language. Knowing these signals helps us time our close effectively. There are various closing methods we can use: direct, trial, assumptive, summary, options, balance sheet, concession, and event-based closes. Another key point is buyer's remorse, when a customer feels stress after saying yes. We can prevent this by offering reassurance and support throughout the process. Guidelines for closing include focusing on motives, avoiding surprises, asking for commitment more than once, and showing confidence. It's also crucial to define what closing isn't, like tricking or forcing buyers, closing before objections are handled, or assuming that a no is forever. Now, to put it simply, closing is like sealing a promise with a handshake. It confirms trust that's already been built. And finally, why should we ask for the close multiple times? Because sometimes buyers need a little extra reassurance, or we might not get the full picture in one try. By asking more than once, we increase our chances of success and ensure the customer feels comfortable and confident moving forward. Now, let's move on to some practical application with Test It. We'll focus on practice drills, specifically survivor and missing checks, to reinforce what we've learned. Next, I want you to think about closing methods. Can you name 3 different ways to close a sale? It's important to understand that different situations call for different closing techniques. Another key concept is buyer's remorse. Do you know what that is? It's that feeling of regret or second-guessing after a purchase. Recognizing this helps us address concerns before they become a problem. Now, let's look at buying signals. Can you give me 2 examples? These are subtle cues or behaviors from the customer that indicate they're ready to buy, like nodding or asking specific questions. Finally, we come to the flip the classroom drill, or what I like to call the capstone stone. This is your chance to demonstrate everything you've learned. Remember the professor's recap. Closing works when trust, discovery, and presentation line up. If those elements are aligned, closing becomes much easier. And here's a critical point. An initial yes is just the start of the service process, not the end. So my question to you is, can a close truly succeed if earlier steps in the sales process were weak? The answer is no. Building trust and discovery early on sets the foundation for a successful close. Let's start with the intro summary, the foundation layer of servicing the sale. Remember, great service leads to repeat business and referrals, which ultimately increases customer lifetime value. Now, moving into the core content, These are the exam-ready bricks you need to understand. First, attrition reasons. Did you know that 50 to 70% of customer loss is due to poor service? That's a huge number, highlighting how critical service quality is. Next, 12 to 15% of attrition comes from product dissatisfaction, and another 10 to 15% results from pricing issues. To combat these, follow-through is essential. This includes delivery, installation, training, and credit support. Follow-up is just as important. Sending a thank you, checking on satisfaction, and maintaining regular contact help build trust and loyalty. Another key concept is expansion selling, which involves full-line offering, cross-selling, and upselling. These strategies help maximize each customer relationship. When it comes to handling complaints, the approach is straightforward. Let the customer vent, avoid arguing, agree on a fix, and follow through personally to resolve the issue. It's important to define what service isn't. It's not disappearing after the sale, not ignoring customer complaints, and not treating service as an extra that can be optional. Service should be integral, ongoing, and essential. Now, to put it simply, I like to think of service like tending a campfire. You keep adding fuel, or it will burn out. Consistent effort is what keeps the fire and your customer relationships alive and thriving. Finally, critical thinking involves spotting the blind spots. For example, are we really following through after the sale? Are we actively listening to customer complaints and addressing them? Remember, excellent service isn't just a one-time effort. It's an ongoing process that requires attention and care. Now, let's explore why follow-up is one of the most powerful tools for building customer loyalty. First, we have the Test It section, which involves practice drills like the survivor and missing checks. These are designed to reinforce the importance of consistent follow-up in real-world scenarios. Next, consider this. What percentage of customer attrition, those customers who stop doing business with us, is caused by poor service? The answer is quite significant. Many studies show that poor service is a leading reason for losing customers, which underscores how vital follow-up really is. Now, on to expansion selling methods. Think about two effective strategies, upselling and cross-selling. Both rely on understanding customer needs and timing your offers correctly, something follow-up helps facilitate. Speaking of follow-up, let's define follow-through. It's the act of consistently completing the promises and commitments we make to our customers after the initial sale. It's about maintaining that ongoing relationship, not just making the sale and moving on. Finally, we're doing the Flip the Classroom drill, our capstone activity. Remember, the key takeaway from the professor's recap: service after the sale equals long-term success. Happy customers are more likely to refer others, which is the ultimate goal. Now, I'll leave you with a question to ponder. Can true loyalty exist without consistent follow-up? Think about that as you reflect on how vital this step really is in building lasting customer relationships.